So, so I'd like to just tell you a little bit about myself. I run performance management at VinSolutions, and performance management for us is really what we call account management. So my team is responsible for caring for our 3,500 plus customers and really trying to make sure they're getting the most out of the software and using it in a way that helps improve their business. And me personally, I've been with VinSolutions about 3 years now, but I've got a lifetime in the automobile business in one form or another, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some of these things with you guys today. I'll tell you that what we're going to talk about, I don't know that there's anything that will make you go, oh my goodness, I really wish I had known that. But I want you to try to listen to this through a filter that asks yourself, are you doing these things? Are you prepared to address, some of these things, and do you have a plan in place to accomplish them? So, with CRM, with anything involving process, it's never what you know, it's what you do. And so I hope that this will, inspire you to identify some things that you can do better and that you can take some action in your stores. So we're going to talk about 5 things you're doing wrong in your CRM, okay? And, I would ask you, I'm going to pose some questions here that may or may not be true for your dealership or your group. Maybe your numbers aren't where you want them to be. You're not selling as many units as you want. You're not driving as much traffic as you want, and you just don't really understand why. Maybe you've invested in a new CRM. You've implemented a new tool, but you really don't see any improvement from what you were doing before. I know this isn't true for anybody on the call, but do you find maybe that your people aren't utilizing the CRM, aren't doing the things you want them to do in the tool? Sure, that's not true. And maybe you're just feeling some overall pain, and you kind of think maybe the CRM is the culprit. So ask yourself if any of these things are true for you, and then is this caused by your CRM? And I'm going to say the answer to that question is a resounding yes. But I think it's for some other reason than maybe you think. And so we're going to talk about 5 common mistakes that at VinSolutions we find our customers dealing with all the time, okay? So number 1 is not knowing which processes are set up in the tool. I cannot tell you how many times we'll go into a store and we'll start talking about processes, and the internet director, the general manager, the owner, has absolutely no idea who created those processes. If they've been on their tool for a couple, 3 years, heck, it was probably somebody that doesn't even work there anymore that created those processes. And, we hear our dealers tell us, we really don't like, hey, Vin, we don't really like that internet sales process you have. Well, wait a minute. It's not our internet sales process. That's your internet sales process. And so I think an absolute critical component for every dealership is, do you know what your processes are? Do you understand what your processes are? Do you believe in your processes? In other words, is your process for you the best possible process for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish? And, think of all the things that a CRM manages for you. I mean, in its most simplest state, CRM is really just a good old-fashioned, tickler file, right? It tells you when to send an email, when to make a phone call, and when to take an action. in order to satisfy a customer, sell a customer, get an appointment, whatever. Okay, and it is just without that, it's nothing. So if your processes are out of date, you've acquired more manufacturers, franchises to represent than maybe you did 3 years ago when you implemented your CRM. Maybe it's time to give a good, solid overview of what's happening, when, and to whom. And so think about it like this. And these are hard. This is a hard format to speak in because I can't see any of you. But I'm just going to guess that some of you have been around the car business for more than a couple of years. And if you think about your front line at the dealership, what would any used car manager do if he shows up at work and the front line is out of whack? There's missing cars. They're not lined up properly. Maybe they're dirty. That's something just instinctively, before he gets a cup of coffee, he's going to get somebody to clean up that front line. I mean, it's just not even something he has to think about, right? So if you think about your processes as like the front line of your dealership, that's the kind of importance that I think we have to put into understanding these processes. So I believe this passionately. Most dealers don't know which processes are firing leads to customers, and there's some serious repercussions from that, all right? Number one, it's a clear sign to your team that management just isn't engaged. If you don't understand and preach and drive those processes like they're a way of life at your dealership, you're just demonstrating to your team that you're not engaged in what's going on. And that will lead to your staff not completing tasks. If it is not a way of life at your store, well, then they're not going to complete the tasks like they're a way of life. You probably are getting conversion rates that are lower than what you deserve. And what's a conversion rate? Well, it could be anything you want. It can be, appointments set to leads. It could be cars sold to showroom visits. I mean, all the things you measure, we all understand that the bigger we make those numbers, the better our overall results are, right? And we don't usually have to improve a great deal. I mean, just a few points here or there will lead us to better final results, which is, making more money and selling more cars. And this to me is big. Your customers are not likely to be getting a consistent experience. And that's a critical component in today's world that we live in the car business, because processes in your CRM really define your guest experience. If we're executing our processes every customer, every day, every time, then what that means is we've created and we're executing on the guest experience that we want for our customers. And you're going to see some percentages, some numbers in throughout this presentation. And, I took great care to try and identify current data from good sources like NADA and our own parent company, Automotive, and I believe these numbers are okay. But here's what I will tell you. Whatever these numbers are, 54% of customers prefer to buy from the dealership that gives them their preferred experience instead of just the lowest price. I don't know what that number really is, but I do know this. I believe in that statement. I believe that customers want to be treated the way they want to be treated, and that is a primary driver on who they decide to do business with. Your processes are defining what that experience is. Mistake number 2, letting your team off the hook. This is something that I really encourage everybody on this call to truly self-evaluate. Why do we want to let people off the hook? Why do we want to allow mediocrity to define our business? You know, our people don't even want to be let off the hook. Our people want to be held accountable. And in some measure, CRM is a tool driven to allow you to hold people accountable for their job. I mean, I can remember back in the old days, you know, hey, Ted, did you do your follow-up today? Yep, boss, all done. Hey, good job, Ted. I didn't have the foggiest idea if his follow-up was done. And not only that, Ted probably didn't even know who to follow up with. Well, none of that is the case in today's world. We know precisely what follow-up needs to be conducted. We know exactly what tasks need to be completed, and we know with certainty if they were completed. So you know, we've got to stop letting our team off the hook. We've got to stop allowing for mediocrity. You've got a tool that you're paying good money for that will help you hold people accountable. That's something we need to do as an industry far better. And I would suggest to you that your people want that. Nobody says they want to be held accountable. Nobody says they like to be driven, right? But everybody does. They want to know what's expected of them. I would ask you to think about it this way. You know, has anybody ever had a boss or a mentor or a leader that they came across in your life that was really super direct? Might have been even kind of a taskmaster, a hard person to satisfy, right? But what do we say about that person when they're gone? We say, you know what? I always knew where I stood with him. I always knew what I was supposed to do with her. And you know, or that person was a real straight shooter. You know, we never talk negatively about those people. We appreciate it. We want it because we know that person is helping us do our best and achieve at the highest level. So think about how important the process is in today's shopping experience that our customers go through. And you know, if we asked this question 10 years ago, how many dealerships does a customer visit before they actually take delivery of a car? What would that answer have been 10 or 15 years ago? And maybe none of you are old enough to remember 10 or 15 years ago. But the answer would have been 5 or 4 or 6, you know, and you really wanted to get that family at the end of the day on Saturday when they've already been to 5 stores, because you're probably going to sell them a car because they're just worn out from the process. Well, that's not how people shop today, and we all know it. They visit something less than 2 dealerships before they buy a car, which means a whole bunch of them go to 1 dealership and buy a car. And that's not because people are less picky or less interested in getting a good deal or less interested in getting what they want. Heck, if anything, that's less true today than it used to be. But they're able to go to fewer dealerships because they can spend all this time online. Some research shows that a typical customer will spend 13 hours online doing research before buying. And you all know the research that they do. They're evaluating their trade. They're checking availability. They're reading about safety features. They're reading reviews. I mean, it's endless, right? And they're on your website, learning about you and reading your reviews and all of that stuff. So they're spending an enormous amount of time doing research before they ever set foot on your asphalt. And so What we have to understand is that our processes in our CRM are what is leading them ultimately to decide if they even want to come in and give us that opportunity. So if our processes aren't being followed and completed, and we're allowing that to happen and not holding people accountable, then I believe that we're sowing what we earn in that process. So we looked at 100 dealers at VIN, and we've got, approaching 4,000 now. But out of a sample of 100, we found that a third of them had overdue tasks at an uncomfortable level. So what's an uncomfortable level? I mean, maybe we're always going to live with some overdue tasks, okay? But there's a point where that becomes a barrier to achieving the results that you deserve. And I'm gonna say uncomfortable level, has some relationship to how many people you have using the system. Some giant high volume store that's selling hundreds and hundreds of cars a month, is going to have a larger number of overdue tasks than maybe a normal dealer selling 100 or 125 cars or 75 cars, something like that, because there's fewer employees. Bottom line is, overdue tasks are the bane of my existence. And a third of our dealers with an uncomfortable level of overdue tasks is way too many. Look at your tool, identify how many overdue tasks you have, and then just ask yourself if you're comfortable with that. It has a tremendous impact on your business. So here's a couple of sample dealers to show you, okay? If we looked at, in the first dealer, we looked at with 100 opportunities, okay, 100 prospects. Out of those 100, they set 20 appointments and confirmed no appointments. Of those, they had 10 people show up and 5 people bought a car. Dealer B, same number of prospects over roughly the same period of time, set 50 appointments because they're process ninjas. They confirm every appointment. So they had 25 people show and 13 of them bought a car. And in my mind, there is absolutely no difference between these two dealerships other than one is a ninja at following and executing on their process, and the other one isn't. Which one are you? So I think that there is an interesting part of this conversation. So we're talking about we need to hold people more accountable, right? So why do we have overdue tasks? Is it a problem with your people? Or is it a problem with your process? Well, I'm going to submit to you that it's more often a process problem than a people problem. It's very easy to leap to the conclusion that our people are maybe lazy or they're not driven or they're, not focused. And so maybe there's some of that. But your processes can really, really contribute to people not completing tasks, which is going to lead us to mistake number 3. Really, really big one for me. So we see this a lot at VinSolutions. Our tool has, a lot of flexibility in how you create processes, and you can create all kinds of custom processes, and we could fire processes that that we just use on people that want blue cars if we want, okay? So what happens a lot of times is we'll get a new dealer, and they'll be so excited to have access and all this ability to create processes that they go a little bit overboard, okay? And they create unrealistic processes, particularly if you have a new CRM tool. At least it's new to you and new to your staff. I think it's really, really important to have some empathy for the idea that just logging into a different system is enough change for a staff to absorb in a short amount of time. You throw in that you're going to ask them to do 3 times what they're used to doing, and, you know, somewhere along the way, those two, you know, don't meet up the way we want. So are your processes unrealistic or maybe too complex? So think about it like this. I want my leads, I want my customers called until somebody talks to them. Who doesn't? Okay? On some basic level, you know, I'm not going to sell a car unless I get them to come in. I'm not going to get them to come in unless I talk to them. And I'm probably not going to talk to them unless I give them what they asked for in their request in the first place. Okay, so if I know I've got to talk to them, and I want every lead to get 5 phone calls on the first day, and I get 6 leads a day. 6. Well, that's 30 phone calls I'm asking potentially somebody to make just on the leads that came in today. Doesn't have anything to do with the leads that came in yesterday and the day before yesterday and 3 weeks ago and all of the activity that I'm still working on trying to cultivate business out of the leads from the past, right? I'm just going to make 30 calls from today. Well, who can do that? I don't know that I can. So here's a couple of real processes that I took out of our system, and I'm going to show you some results with these 2 processes. And the first one I'm going to suggest, pardon me, is maybe a little bit aggressive than what he's asking his team to do. We're going to call the customer. Let's just count: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 phone calls in 3 days, and then I got managers calling on day 4. Okay. The second process is quite a bit more simplified. We're going to send an email quote. We're going to make a call. We're going to call them the next day. We're going to call them the third day, and then we're going to eventually have a manager make a call for us, sprinkled in with some emails, some of which are automated. So these 2 stores are very similar in size. Store number 1 has 247 overdue tasks. Store number 2 has 29 overdue tasks. And I know both of these stores, and I'm here to tell you the staff is capable at both places. The staff is interested in being successful. The staff wants to sell cars and make money. And my contention is that just the processes that are set up in the tool are driving them to have uncompleted and overdue tasks. That's on the store, not on the people. Because when you have a gargantuan amount of tasks to complete, and I know, I'm assuming we've got a wide breadth of roles on this call right now. We've probably got managers, we've got internet managers, we've got BDC folks. At least I hope that's the case. So nod your head yes, even though I can't see it, if you've ever found yourself cherry-picking your way through your task list. You log into your CRM in the morning, and you see everything you have to do, and you just start doing stuff. And you're picking what you do, and you know there's no way you're getting through them all. So I don't know that I want my staff to be cherry-picking what I'm asking them to do. Because I don't know about you, but I'm neither good enough or lucky enough to pick the right things. Bottom line is this is the part you have to answer, I believe. If you created a process for anything and you believe in it, and that's what you need to do to sell the most cars, set the most appointments, drive the most business, well, then you have to do all of that every time. It's not optional. You know, it's not okay to not do it. So cherry picking is you know, I think the death knell of any process. I'm going to share with you a story that I like to tell people. So our industry has a lot of really, really smart consultants. And you all know their names and follow them in social media probably. These are some smart folks, okay? And they'll come into a dealership and they'll set up, the Cadillac of processes and guarantee this is the very best way for you to execute in your CRM, right? Well, I'm here to tell you, if there's two dealerships, yours with those Matt Daddy processes that are the very best on the planet Earth, and my dealership with some crummy, archaic process that I created 6 years ago. But the difference is you kind of, sort of execute on your process, and I execute on mine 100% of the time, every customer, every day, every time. I'll win. The process is important. Make no mistake about it. But completing the process every time is far more important than the process itself. You've heard the saying, we have a knowing problem or a doing problem. Well, if everybody knows what to do and they're not doing it, then we're going to do something about finding some people who will. All right, mistake number 4. This is where some of you right now are rolling your eyes, okay? Not entering every opportunity into the CRM. Well, duh, okay? But I can't stress to you enough how incredibly common this is in at least in our world, okay? You cannot fire any process if they're not entered into the CRM. And it is remarkable to me how common of a shortcoming this is. I mean, because it's not hard. I mean, most CRM companies have scanners and driver's license scanners and heck, mobile driver's license scanners. You can scan in people into your CRM right on the lot in many cases, so there's very little excuse for not getting somebody entered into the CRM. And so I think you have to begin with something that identifies that if it's not in the CRM, then it doesn't exist. It didn't happen. If it's not in there, hey boss, I called them from my cell phone. No, you didn't, because if you did, it'd be in the CRM. I talked to them yesterday. No, you didn't, because if you did, it'd be in the CRM. And I think we have to operate with absolute vigilance on that alone, okay? And, think about the old showroom desk log. We kind of made this up, but I got to tell you, this does not depart very much from how I remember these desk logs. Everybody's a drive-by, right? Luckily, we sold somebody a car. There's no phone numbers on here. So when I come in tomorrow morning and I rip this thing off the pad and I sit down to kind of do, maybe I've got a save a deal meeting, maybe I'm just going to do some follow-up. Man, I got no way to do anything with this. Well, this is not the world we live in today. So who doesn't get entered into the CRM? Because, and this is, maybe call this just a theory I have on my part, but people that don't make a compelling enough argument that they're going to buy a car right now, oftentimes don't get entered into the CRM. Today's version of somebody picking up a brochure, let's say, if they make a compelling enough argument that they're really interested in buying a car right now, well, I may get those people entered because, just for skate protection, if nothing else. So shoppers who aren't ready to buy immediately. And then ask yourself this, who's making that decision? I really believe that there's a strong financial, forget results for a minute, there's a financial impact on not entering people into your CRM. And my suspicion is everybody on this call has sold a car to somebody that entered into the CRM a month or more before they bought, and persistent follow-up led to a sale. Is that fair? Well, if it is, think about the cost that you experience by not getting everybody into the CRM. If we can believe it costs us $616 in advertising and marketing for every car we sell, and I'm going to close 20% of my opportunities, that means the cost to generate 50 opportunities is 12 grand. But if I'm not entering half of the opportunities that I'm getting into my CRM, and by the way, a phone call is an opportunity, isn't it? So if I'm not entering everybody into my CRM half the time, that means I'm wasting $6,100. My guess is your CRM doesn't even cost $6,100. So this is a real screenshot from VinSolutions. This is a dealer that, I think this was April activity. It has a closing percentage of 60%, 55% overall, 60% on new cars. Maybe he's just that good. Or maybe he's really not selling 131 cars to 185 opportunities. Maybe some folks aren't making it into the CRM. And 100% of those people, it is impossible to follow up with them. Is it not? Mistake number 5, not using the CRM beyond the point of sale. And you know, if some people are sending out emails maybe and using whatever campaign tool they have in their CRM. But there's no thought that goes into it. There's no real effort going into it. They're just sending some email and, you know, telling them, hey, we're dealing from the ceiling, come on in, okay? I would suggest that's almost the equivalent of not using your database in the first place, you know? So not using your CRM beyond the point of sale is to me, a tremendous sin. You know, we all know that the customer is shopping online and has changed the behavior that they go about when they buy a car. We've got an opportunity to control the message, and we don't take advantage of it. And I can't tell you how many new dealers we set up on our tool that are really, really, I mean, intensely focused on making certain that we capture all of the customer data out of their previous CRM or out of their DMS. And oh my goodness, I don't have customers right from 12 years ago. So everybody seems to understand that the data is important, but then they don't turn around and use the data. So the CRM to me, you know, does everybody even know what CRM stands for, or has it just become the acronym that, you know, that we use? Because it's not just an internet tool, okay? It's not just a ready buyer tool, okay? And these are the kinds of things we hear from our customers, and generally from general managers, dealer principals. Hey, man, I want to talk to you about how you're using your CRM. Yeah, go talk to the internet person. That's his deal. You know, what does that mean? CRM is customer relationship management. We forget that the R stands for relationship, or maybe retention. Okay, but it is too often to keep that conversation going with your customers all the way through the life cycle of ownership that they have. I'm really proud of this line, and I do think that it in a small way defines what we're all trying to do every day. You've got to use your CRM to prospect your customers, not simply to process your customers. All too often, we think of CRM usage, CRM activity, CRM execution, just in how am I doing with my internet leads? What's my internet closing percentage? How many appointments am I setting against my internet leads or phone ups or whatever? When we think about only that, I can promise you what we're really thinking about is we're just processing the customers that come to us right now. And yeah, maybe some of them are 2 and 3, and maybe they're 6 months old, you know, and they just can't seem to decide, do they really want to buy a car right now? Okay, I'm still really just processing that customer. When I've got thousands, tens of thousands. I talked to a customer literally yesterday. Their group has 500,000 customers in their database. If we're not executing on the power that offers us, shame on us. I mean, it's far more costly to acquire a new customer than to sell to a current customer. That's true for VinSolutions. That's true for, I mean, every business on the face of the earth. Doing business with the people that are already doing business with you is always the best way to go. So here's a couple of campaigns in a real customer, and I believe this is April data for this dealership. So here's an email campaign that went to 2,900 people, a little under 3,000 people. And this went to people that were in the CRM but didn't buy a car and were no longer in an active process, meaning they came in as a lead, or they walked in the front door, or they placed a phone call, and they either stopped responding and we moved them out of an active status, or they told us they bought somewhere else, or whatever. These are all people that over a course of time met that criteria. And this dealer sold 13 of those people a car a month after sending the campaign, and did 11 ROs. So these are all people he didn't sell a car to, but he got 11 of them to come in and service his car in the shop. I mean, today's world, I mean, I want to sell everybody a car, but if they buy a car across town, I still want them to come into service with me, right? Here's another one, 5,500 emails to sold customers. These are people I did sell a car to, and if I remember correctly, the criteria was they had to buy a car between 24 and 36 months ago, and with some other filters. But out of that campaign, they sold 9 fresh cars, and they did 95 ROs to those customers. And hey, Vickery, some of those people were going to service their car anyway. I mean, I sold them the car. Yeah, you're right. But by communicating with the customer with a responsible message, you know, we like to say it then: right message, right time, right vehicle. When we reach out to them with the right message that we're at least attempting to deliver some value to them, we're going to get results, and you have to credit some of the results to that activity. Pay attention that in both of these, one went to 2,900 people, one went to 5,500. In my brain, nothing could be less effective than sending one email to every email address you have. I mean, I guess maybe it's better than nothing, but I think if we put that little thought into how we're messaging our customers and we expect grand results, I don't feel like that's very realistic. Okay, so let's review a little bit. Mistake number one, not knowing what processes are set up in your CRM. I mean, that's easy. Do you know? And if you don't, learn them. Letting your team off the hook. Why would we do that? You know, I mean, we believe in these processes that we just reviewed, and then we're going to let people ignore them? Setting up unrealistic and complex processes. So we're starting to hold people accountable, but they're not Superman. If it's not possible for them to achieve what we're asking them to do, I need to go back to step one and take another look at those processes. Not entering every opportunity into the CRM. Well, come on, man. I mean, I can have the best process in the world if I'm not firing it on people and not using it to get folks to come back in. Guess what? I mean, then it's all a waste of time. So I've got to get everybody into the CRM. And then, of course, last, not using the CRM beyond the point of sale. So if any of that smells right to you, you know, what are you going to do next? Well, what I hope you're going to do is review those processes, okay? Are they right? Do you believe in them? Are they realistic? You know, are they the right thing for you? And then I'm going to get everybody into the CRM so those processes can do what I want them to do. And I'm going to communicate to my team what my expectations are. And there better be some consequences when we don't don't meet our expectations. And then I'm going to manage to that. I'm going to manage through my CRM. And I'm going to make some kind of a plan to make better use of my database, right? And it's not just to sell cars, it's to service cars. I can't tell you how many service managers we talk to that, you know, almost don't even know that they have a CRM, okay? There's gold in that CRM for the front end and the back end. All right. I hope that we got some value out of this for everybody. I've really enjoyed doing it. I would have much preferred to be able to see all your bright, shiny faces, to catch those of you who fell asleep, you know, and maybe, you know, embarrass you in some way. But I have really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. I believe we've got some questions that that you guys can send in, and I'll certainly do my best to give you my opinion on answering a few questions. You there, digital dealer?
Hello?
There, now you're there.
Perfect. Do apologize. We lost connection for a second there. Okay, perfect.
Does everybody know where to enter in the questions?
Yeah, I mean, that was some great information there. We're now, like you stated, we're in the question and answer portion of the webinar. Please feel free to submit the questions to the questions box on that tab. We do have a couple questions coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and start asking them. First question is, in your opinion, who should answer internet leads, sales or BDC?
Well, that's $1 million question, and it might literally, using a dollar reference to describe the question is probably fair. I think that your budget and your resources in the dealership will help you come to that conclusion. What I will tell you is this. If you send internet leads to the sales floor as a direct sort of activity, then you're just naturally sacrificing at least some execution. And the reason for that is, I've been around the car business my entire adult life. If I'm selling somebody a car, I can guarantee you what I'm not doing. And what I'm not doing is calling customers, responding to leads, sending emails, because I'm going to sell Mr. and Mrs. Customer that car if it's the last thing I do, okay? So I think that some kind of a BDC format is the best way to ensure that you're true to following your process. Is that fair?
Definitely. The second question here is going to be, what is one of the best tactics you've seen to hold a sales team accountable?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in my brain, then it has to come with some kind of a consequences. I mean, it's got to be more than just, hey, dude, why aren't you completing your tasks? Or, hey, dude, why didn't you enter that guy in the CRM? I mean, I think there has to be some level of consequence for that. And maybe that consequence is, you know, that person doesn't get leads anymore. Maybe if the BDC is setting appointments, that guy doesn't get any of the appointments for a period of time. There's got to be some kind of pain associated with not completing their activity in the CRM.
Awesome. And this next question is a very good question. I've seen it asked plenty of times. Should there be consequences to sales reps that do not use the CRM? If so, what?
Yeah, so we just kind of did that one, and I would just reiterate it again. And you said you've heard it many times. Can you give me what the other answers were? Because they were probably smarter people than me. But listen, there has to be something. And look, I would tell you, this to me, this falls into the accountability portion of things. And just talking about the failure to be true to the CRM is, if that's all you're doing, you're ahead of the game of many of the dealerships we interact with. But you've got to have something painful associated with not doing the deal, and maybe, you know, right up to and including, hiring somebody that will.
Awesome.
If you shoot a hostage, sometimes that inspires people to play along, right?
Definitely agree. This next attendee wants to know, what have you seen as the best practices for the internet lead process?
Oh boy. Well, like most things, I really think it begins with understanding your business, your staff, your resources, your volume of leads that you are managing. Okay, and a critical. I'll compare it to my business. You know, we have performance managers, and they're responsible for a certain number of accounts. Well, if we give them too many accounts, then it's almost impossible for them to deliver the value to their customers than if we keep them at an appropriate number that allows them the time to do their job. Same way with internet leads. You better start off with making sure you understand how many leads you get, how many people are going to be managing those leads, and can they handle it? I mean, if I've got to sell the car, right? I've got to show the car, demo the car, sell the car, and manage the leads, and you give me 200 leads a month, well, there's no way I can do that, right? So I think that the ratio of leads to people handling the leads is kind of the first thing you have to design. And then, to me, that predicates, what that process looks like. If you want, the easiest thing I can speak to on that is, I think that the opportunity that you have to use automation to get the email message out at the right time to the right person, allowing you the opportunity and time to make more phone calls, I think is really important.
Awesome. And And we have a couple more questions that I'm going to read out loud. For the other questions, on the screen is Mark's phone number and email address. He's going to be available all day today and tomorrow, so feel free to contact him at any time. Next question here is, do you have any examples of those emails with solid results, the actual template set?
Yeah, you know, at our company, we set up new dealers with some, you know, we'll set them up on anything they want, but we'll set them up with some basic templates and, you know, basic verbiage that it's hard for me to feel like, you know, we've skinned that cat in the best possible way. You know, I mean, if you talk to 10 people, you might get 10 different opinions. And I think this subject we're talking about right now is, I don't know that anybody's wrong. I mean, I think that a couple of things that I would encourage you to think about when you look at your templates that is, I think, important today is I would encourage people to get away from using the old, you know, headers with all kinds of images and you know, we used to you know, load up those templates with, you know, pictures of the dealership and a banner that, you know, has the name of the store and all that jazz in it. And I don't think our customer is interested in seeing all that. I think they want their answer, and they want it to be succinct, and they want it to be direct and accurate, okay? And they want us to answer their question, okay? But they don't want a novel when we answer their question. And I don't know that they want a bunch of art, you know, I mean, you know, and I would ask you to think about yourself. I mean, maybe I'm just a 50-year-old man and I'm too old, but I get an email with a bunch of crap in it like that. I'm probably thinking it's just a sales pitch and I'm deleting it and moving on. If I get an email with 3 or 4 succinct sentences in it, I might at least read it.
Awesome. And the last question, and again, Mark's email and phone number is on the screen. You can reach him at mark.vickery@VinSolutions.com or his phone number at 816-309-4668. Mark, at what point should the BDC agent turn customer over to the salesperson? When they walk in the door? Question mark.
Really, really great question. Okay, and I would ask you a question that I know I'm not going to get an answer to, but I'm assuming that in this BDC you're setting appointments, right? So number one, who is confirming the appointment, and how do you decide which salesperson is getting the customer? If in my head, if you're on site in the dealership, then I want the customer to come in and ask for a manager if they can't ask for me, and then the manager will assign them to a salesperson that, you know, can handle the customer. And so I don't think I want to lose control of them in the BDC until they physically arrive in the store. And the reason is this. One of the common gaps we find with our customers is they can do a pretty good job of setting appointments, but some of those appointments don't show up for their appointment. Is that fair? I mean, a lot of them don't. Okay, and where people fall through the gaps is we've set an appointment, they don't show, and they don't do an adequate job of re-engaging that customer to reset the appointment. Okay, if I keep it with my BDC, which I'm already making the investment to ensure they're going to do all the work needed to get them in the store. If I keep it with them until they get in the store, then in my head, that's a better way to ensure that we're going to stay on top of that customer until we can get them in.
Awesome, awesome. Well, great. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar, and thank you, VinSolutions and Mark, for great content. To view this webinar on demand and future digital dealer webinars, please visit digitaldealer.com/webinars. Thank you and have a great day.
Hey, I appreciate it, everybody. Hey, enjoy your day.